Okay, for more now, we're joined by Ying Jin. She joins us from California's Silicon Valley. She is the Executive Director of Chinese Language Association of Secondary Elementary Schools, or CLAS. I want to thank you very much for taking time to chat with us. I just came back from a month in China, and I had to have someone, at my elbow the whole time, because it's such a difficult language. And if I was going to encourage someone to learn, which I would instantly, start young. Just talk about how difficult it is, because the word ma means 4 different things depending on the tone.
Well, actually, I want to say Chinese is not hard to learn.
Oh boy, okay.
Compared with other languages, we don't have conjugation.
True.
So, if you say to go, I will go, I went, same word. And I think for people who are good with music, the tunes, like what you just mentioned, ma can mean different things. It's beautiful, right?
Absolutely, and to me, it's amazing because the words, that they'll have different subtleties, and
right.
The people I was working with, it's amazing to me the people that can translate that and get that subtlety across. My heart goes out to those folks at the UN that have to really go through and transcribe or translate those important documents in 2 hours' time. But just explain why Mandarin, I suppose, for Chinese, has become so popular and why it's so in vogue right now.
I would say, of course, people have different opinions, but in my view, the top one reason is I think a lot of, especially parents, see the career prospects. And when the global economy grows and people really have a lot of interactions these days, I think it's good if you can speak another language or maybe other languages, so you can really know those subtleness in the language, and of course know the culture norms, so you can communicate, interact better.
Now, what kind of people are you working with?
I'm in the Silicon Valley, and a big part of my students are actually heritage students, meaning that they might be, first, second, third, even 4th generation of Chinese Americans. And a lot of parents want their kids to, to be close to the tradition, to the heritage. But it's actually a very interesting question. I do have some students with the face, the last name, but who don't speak the language at all. Yeah. Even their parents are 3rd generation Chinese Americans. They don't speak the language, but they still want their kids, to be able to get exposed to the culture and the language.
A lot of information, as previous 2 stories really jumped out at me, that it's the most spoken language, firstly, and secondly, in the United States, the 2nd most popular language spoken at home. I think that surprises a lot of people.
Absolutely, and especially in California, we have a lot, maybe the most Mandarin immersion programs, meaning that kids from a very young age, maybe preschool, kindergarten, they started to learn the language. And I think by February this year, there are about 400 Mandarin immersion programs nationwide. Of course, California, Utah, and Minnesota, those 3 states have the most immersion programs. It's beautiful to see those little kids who speak the language, who know a lot about the culture.
One thing I remember, I lived in Manhattan for a while, and I remember going down to Chinatown, and there were Chinese schools and programs for education for American families that adopted Chinese youngsters, and that was huge. These parents would just kind of sit on the sidelines, and their kids would naturally just gravitate toward this.
Yeah, definitely. And I got a chance to talk to a principal of an immersion school in Minnesota, and she actually explained to me the school was actually, the idea of forming this school actually was from those parents who adopted kids, children from China. And I just feel so appreciative for them to be open-minded, to still want their kids to get some knowledge about their culture.
Yeah, it really is amazing. I think we kind of almost buried the lead because at the very end of Edis Janssen's fine story, we talked about the business opportunities. I mean, the second largest economy in the world, it's growing, it's technology. I'll be the first to say it. I was stunned how much it had grown since COVID, since the last time I was there. I mean, it's going to be globally important moving forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think now think about people can work from home. They can just, the team is no longer just at one office. You might need to talk to people working in another country. And think about if you can really overcome that language barrier. I mean, that would be beautiful.
Okay, I can say my one phrase in Chinese, 谢谢. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And we learned a great deal. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.